for example, now you're close to executive leader, and then you grow like a lot on your career path. And so how do you, like, looking back or looking now where you are, like, so how you think it is the way or the flow that you wanted to do to continue grow and learn as a professional. So like, how do you see, like, oh, that's my path here and I wanted to follow this path, and what is the resources or strategies that you use to stay up to date with what do you wanted to work with.
Hmm, this is something I invest in heavily,
All
more
right.
than most people, and more than I would say most people be comfortable with, in a
Mm.
sense.
Mm.
So I'm reminded by some of my friends. So my daily schedule is I wake up at 6:30 and I
Okay.
study for 2 hours before work.
All
That
right.
is every day for the last probably 6 years.
Okay.
So this is a case of learning anything and everything for whatever, always, just constantly trying to improve it. Like it could be
Exactly.
a book on history, it could be a book on medicine, it could be whatever. I'll always start the day by reading something random.
Hmm.
Then I might throw on an actual course on something like Pluralsight, Front End Masters, Coursera, I don't know, whatever I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm-hmm.
like. I chase my curiosity. That's always helped. Like if I'm just interested in nerding things out,
Hmm.
I or like diving deeper into the details, I'll just follow that curiosity. Let it go. I don't try and pin myself to certain areas all that often
Okay.
unless I have something that I know needs attention. So often you'll identify weaknesses in your ability. One I noticed a couple of years ago was my ability to architect on cloud solutions and
All
things
right.
like that. So I spent a lot of time on AWS and building up that knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. Now I'm part of the AWS community builders group.
That's cool.
So, um, but that's just again because I knew I had the need and I started to fill it in. So
Hmm.
I think maybe the first thing is trying to figure out what you need to know or what you don't know
Hmm.
and start prioritizing those things and really just like figure out what's number one, what could make the most impact for you today. Um, I find that's also very handy when certain trends start popping up that you don't drop everything. It's
Okay.
very easy to get excited again when we're looking at Twitter or LinkedIn and we see ChatGPT's going to take your job. Drop everything, learn it, or else you're dead. You're going to be so you go and you chase it. Now you've built some really cool stuff with ChatGPT, so I
Mm-hmm.
think that was worthwhile. But I mean, a lot of people are just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, and they don't have the focus that they need to get an expertise in an area, so that then they can guide other people with this stuff as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's I created. I created a small project called Terminal GPT, and my idea was just to demonstrate to people that it's just an API that you're going to be using for anything you want, and you're not going to be needed like a huge amount of knowledge base to learn about how to use GPT models, because it's already a trained model. You don't need to understand. It's just a black box. You can use it, and it's interesting to see like how you can play around. And I like it. It's very interesting. But then it's like you said, it can't be just like uh, being a specialist in crypto once and now a specialist in AI now, and then you're gonna be specialist in something in the future, because you have to actually really understand what is the technology, right? I think that it's kind of like misconception sometimes, and this social media, they drive these misconceptions sometimes.
And I'm an advocate for fundamentals always.
Yeah.
I that is probably the easiest way to get ahead of 90% of people is really grinding those fundamentals.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people get caught up and skip the fundamentals because they're too worried about the flash things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes apparent very quickly because as soon as something goes wrong, it's a nightmare to debug. You
Hmm.
know, I seen a LinkedIn post earlier on today about like the people becoming AI debuggers is going to be the number one job in the future because like we're just going to if we just trust things blindly to do things without really understanding the
Hmm.
fundamentals, the model, the statistics underneath all this stuff, you you're kind of blind. You're flying things blind. It's going to be impossible to guide and teach people. where you need to be able to help, and that's when people inevitably become stuck.
Yeah, I remember I saw this funny thing. Someone say that ChatGPT is it's a loading of coding, so it's gonna be get the basic of the basic of code and gonna spill this out to you, and they're gonna be copy and paste like you used to do on Stack Overflow, but then now is if it because the code is designed by humans, it's gonna be buggy anyway. So you're gonna be like I said, it's gonna be debugging AI now. That's interesting. It's interesting perspective, and I totally agree nowadays. And I've used sometimes, and I see clearly it's not an expert in coding, and you can see, for example, how it doesn't understand the basic fundamental concepts sometimes. It's interesting to see.
Right now, it is your drunk uncle talking shit. That's the way I describe it, because
Exactly.
it confidently tells you wrong answers. So it's like this is exactly how you solve it, and you're like, no, Ethan, this is nothing correct at all. It's a good thing to give you ideas, I think. But you can't just blindly trust it. Not its current state, anyway. I hope it
Exactly.
improves. I think it will improve at the current rate.
Mhm.
But right now, that's the only way I'd call it is your it's your drunk uncle just talking shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's so confident that it's right
Exactly.
all the time, which is worrying because it also tries to reinforce whatever you're asking. So if you depending on how you ask it, it will try to it tries to agree with what you're asking. So it won't say, hey, you're asking the wrong question, or hey, you're looking for the wrong thing. It will try and create the story that you're trying to build.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's back a question.